Hello, all, and welcome to the second WayTooIndie.com Hangout. I'm Bernard Boo, a writer at WayTooIndie.com, and joining me today are two other WayTooIndie writers, Ananda Dillon and CJ Prince. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. Today on the WayTooIndie.com Hangout, we talk about films, filmmakers, and the film industry. That one's big today, but always with an independent perspective. Today on the docket, we're going to talk about the big award shows that happened this past weekend, the Oscars, of course, and the Film Independent Spirit Awards. We're going to talk about what we thought of the broadcasts and the winners, our reactions to the winners of each of the major categories of those shows, and then we're going to go from the top of the industry, those big award shows, to kind of the bottom of the industry. We're going to discuss the state of independent film and whether or not the independent film industry is cannibalizing itself, whether it's spread too thin, whether the doom of independent film is upon us. Maybe that's going a little too far, but to start the conversation off, let's talk about what we've been watching. Start off light. Ananda, what have you been watching lately?
I am not a dutiful indie film watcher this last 2 weeks, I admit. I have taken the lull in major films coming out and decided to instead focus my energies on binge TV watching. And so because I had never watched the show before and everyone's getting very excited about the film coming out, I decided to binge watch Veronica Mars the last 2 weeks. So that's what I've been doing mostly. Yeah, and I'm excited because that means I will be seeing the film next week when it's released. And all caught up with all 3 seasons. I'm almost halfway through the 3rd season right now. So that's mostly what I've been watching. The only film that I actually can say I remember watching the last 2 weeks is horrible. It's literally considered the worst film ever made. It's called The Room.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen it before, so it's been a couple weeks of firsts for me. But if you have not heard of this, The Room is this film made by Tommy Wiseau, who true indie filmmaking at its finest, or least finest, I guess we should say, but basically a very simple tale of a man named Johnny who has a fiancée named Lisa who suddenly decides she no longer wants to be with him and starts to cheat on him with his best friend Mark. So I wish I could say there's more to it than that, but that's pretty much it. And
you forgot about Denny.
Denny,
the orphan boy.
The creep.
That's true. The creepy orphan kid who lives next door and somehow inexplicably just hangs out with him quite often.
What was your favorite line, Ananda?
Oh gosh, I think my favorite one was they're in the party scene when they're hanging out. One of them gets a little heated and he says, "Keep your comments in your pocket." That's my favorite line. That was really good. Also, the 10 different times they say, "Oh hey," "Oh hi."
Oh hi, doggy is one of my favorites.
Hi, doggy.
My favorite is the story Mark tells about the woman who got beaten to a pulp and left the hospital. He's like, "That's a funny story."
Or when the mom is like, "So I definitely have breast cancer."
Yeah, that's so good.
And then moves right on.
Yeah.
Like it's no big thing. What's happening?
Oh,
So
man, I wish we could do a whole episode on The Room. I could totally do that.
Yeah.
Because that's totally indie. That's way too indie for sure.
That's
The Room.
way too indie.
Yeah, it's too indie, right?
Yeah.
Probably get Tommy Wiseau to come in on the hangout too. He doesn't have anything else to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. You know, I almost interviewed him a couple months ago.
Really?
But yeah, I guess he was whatever. Who knows what happened?
Wait. He's not making another film, is he?
Here in San Francisco, they show the film a lot, and he comes up.
Okay, as long as he has no plans to make other films, I don't mind him capitalizing on this horrible film that he did make, but
Franco is making a movie about The Room, right?
Is he?
James Franco, yeah, he's making a movie about The Room. Tommy Wiseau.
Wow. The making of the Room. Oh gosh.
God,
that could be kind of hilarious, actually.
I mean, That's
Well,
one of the
so
funniest fucking
yeah,
movies I've ever seen.
I know. Well, and it's so funny because he obviously took himself so seriously doing it, and it's just horrible. Yeah.
It's worse. It's worse than horror. It's like incompetent. It's not even because I've seen bad movies that at least look like movies. Like this doesn't
Yeah.
look like a movie. It looks like
Yeah.
something else.
Well,
You
I was
know,
surprised that the movie came out in 2003 because it looks like it was shot in 1992. Like,
Yeah.
well, what Tommy Wiseau did was he shot it on film and HD
and I
simultaneously.
read
The
that.
two
Yeah.
cameras were side by side when he shot both because he wanted to like future proof. But then here's the twist. Because he shot it with two cameras, he went, "Oh, I can release in 3D now." So he's
Oh my
considering
gosh.
releasing it in 3D.
Like
Yeah,
one analog and one digital.
yeah, because
Oh
it's two cameras, right?
gosh.
Oh
So you can,
God.
yeah, that's pretty much everyone's reaction.
I no, I don't want that. You guys need to redeem me and this whole website, and please tell me
Yeah.
you've watched something better than that.
CJ, save our souls,
Okay.
please.
I went to the theaters and I decided. Well, I went with a friend and we watched The Wind Rises.
Oh, I want to
Nice,
see that.
nice.
Hayao Miyazaki's. Well, I guess now his swan song since he announced he's done making films. But um, I'll preface this by saying I do like Studio Ghibli. I think Spirited Away is one of the best animated movies I've seen.
hmm
And I know everyone loves this movie, but I really didn't care for it.
What?
It's like it was well over 2 hours long, and I feel like he just glossed over so many details. Like characters, plot lines just pick up and drop off randomly. There's no consistency about it at all. There's a point where, well, the story's about, it's inspired by a guy named Jiro Horikoshi, who's the designer of the warplane that we used during World War II in Japan.
Mhm.
And he has a family that's kind of introduced in the first act, and then his sister kind of periodically pops up. And there was a point where, like, late in the third act, she came up again. And I saw her. I turned to my friend and I went, "Oh my god! Like, I forgot he had a sister. Like, I completely forgot that the character existed." Because it is very weird, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, basically, I put it this way. There's a point where Jiro, who I saw the dub version, so he's voiced by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's running excitedly to his office, and he yells out, "Planes are fascinating," to his friend, like out loud, like planes are fascinating. And I think your enjoyment of the movie really depends on how much you agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't really find the subject matter interesting. I know Miyazaki's a huge nerd about it, but yeah. And then another thing. I kind of thought it was weird the way he kind of glosses over not only like the plot and characters, but like the historical context. Like there really is not much mention of the fact that these planes, slaughtered
What they were
a
used
shit
for.
ton of people.
Yeah.
Like they bring it up and it's kind of like, oh, these planes are gonna kill people, and then they're like, who cares? We're engineers. We build dreams. La da da. It's like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how it really turns a blind eye to it. But yeah, no, it just kind of I was kind of so about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard the so-so. I've heard so-so about that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've heard wonderful. So I would like to
Well,
see
it's
more.
gorgeous. Like it's obviously gorgeous. I mean, Miyazaki's amazing.
Yeah.
He's an amazing animator, and I mean, I love, like I said, I love Spirited Away. I like Princess Mononoke. I even like Ponyo. I know people didn't like Ponyo, but
Yeah.
this one, yeah, I was surprised at how disappointed I came out of it.
Wow.
All right.
All right.
Bernard?
Well, I watched a movie I very much enjoyed. Did you guys lose me? Am I still here?
No, you're still there.
here.
I'm still here? Okay, I can't see
We're waiting in
myself.
silence.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I saw The Raid 2. Gareth Evans.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
Yeah. I saw The Raid 2. I'm interviewing the director Gareth Evans and the star. I forget his name.
Iko Uwais?
Iko. Yeah.
Iko, okay.
Yeah, I'm interviewing them on Tuesday. Very much looking forward to it. The Raid 2 is sequel to The Raid Redemption, and it's not very raidish. There isn't really a raid going on, but the brutal kind of frantic, extreme violence is still intact, and the plot, consists of a lot of corrupt cops and thugs and things like that. But what you really show up for are these these set pieces, these beautifully choreographed action scenes, and it's incredible. I thought, yeah, I thought it was very, very enjoyable. Really, really disgusting at times.
Oh gosh.
Super violent.
Yeah.
Super violent. You know, and but I thought it was a pretty rich martial arts movie experience. I can't wait to see it again.
How's the pacing? Because it is 2.5 hours long.
It's 2.5 hours long. At times, it does. You get moments to breathe, which, depending on what you want from the film, can be a good or bad thing. There are long sections where there isn't much action, but I think overall the film, by the end of the film, because the climax is so overwhelmingly exciting and thrilling, that you won't remember the kind of down segments as being bad.
I was curious because I love the raid and or the raid redemption, but no one calls it that. It was actually the first movie I reviewed on the site.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Yeah. So I was curious because I mean the first one is like the pace is just relentless, and when I heard this one's so much longer, I'm like, how are they even going to do it?
The pace is not as relentless as the first one. I actually prefer the first film, but not by much. I kind of adore both of these movies, and the fact that Mr. Evans is, I think he's like Welsh or something.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really cool. Can't wait to talk to those guys. I think it's actually going to be my first video interview I'm doing.
Oh, nice.
Interviewing them in person, and I've got a camera crew to come in and film us, and hopefully it turns out well. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's what we've been watching. Now we're going to get into our first topic of discussion, the awards from this past weekend, the Oscars and the Film Independent Spirit Awards. Not a lot of surprises. We did a prediction show as our first Way Too Indie Hangout.
Yeah.
And we didn't, it pretty much turned out the way we saw. We predicted it would, save for the big category in the Oscars, right, Ananda?
Yeah, I was a little off on that one, but I did say I'd be happy either way, so at least, can't hold it against me too much, but yeah.
I mean, just to really quickly run through the winners, the major winners, Best Feature for the Film Independent Spirit Awards first. Best Feature went to 12 Years a Slave. I think we called that one. Best Director went to Steve McQueen, and this is funny, guys. I laughed so hard. So I brought up this list of the winners from the Film Independent Spirit Awards, and I got it off of ontheredcarpet.com.
Yeah.
And Shane Carruth was nominated for Best Actor, but here on this list they spelled his name as Shame Carruth. Oh, poor guy.
Poor Shane.
Poor Shame. But Steve McQueen took that one for 12 Years a Slave as well. That film sweeping the two major categories.
It's just easier to list the categories rather than the films, because 12 Years a Slave won like every major category.
I know.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. Best Female Lead, Cate Blanchett. Wasn't a surprise. Best Male Lead, Mr. McConaughey. Supporting Female, Lupita Nyong'o. Beautiful. Gosh, she's gorgeous. Lupita Nyong'o. And Best Supporting Male, Jared Leto. Dallas Buyers Club, also gorgeous.
Agreed.
Yeah, his hair is so pretty.
It was. Best hair on the red carpet.
So what did you guys think of those winners?
Pretty, I mean, the acting matched the Oscars exactly.
Yeah.
I think that was interesting. But, it was pretty obvious and predictable for those, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I went through the other awards, like, I was going through the others, and I was more happy with the smaller categories, like the John Cassavetes Award, which went to This Is Martin Bonner, and I know people would have preferred like Computer Chess or Museum Hours, because those had more popularity or backing, but I really like This Is Martin Bonner. I mean, like, I was just happy it won, and I know the budget for it was like $42,000, and it's gorgeous. Great. It's gorgeous. It's, I mean, Dustin saw it too, and we put it in the feature for Overlooked Films that's on the site from last year, and I was just very happy about that, and Let the Fire Burn won the Truth Than Fiction Award, the documentary one, which is an amazing
I know
documentary.
you were probably over the moon about that one, right?
Yeah, I was happy. I mean, I was actually happy that that and Mannequin Manor was nominated because I saw that at TIFF and I was a big fan of that too. But Let the Fire Burn was the one I wanted to win, so
Yeah.
I was yeah, I was pretty happy about those. I mean, as for the major awards, it's kind of like, well, we knew. I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting how this whole campaign started out very, unpredictable, but then as it went on, it seemed very set in stone.
Yeah.
Right, and yeah, Ananda, you and I, along with our editor-in-chief, Dustin Jancic, we predicted. You could tell from our little hangout that there was from the non-variance in our choices that
I know.
the writing was kind of on the wall going into this award show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Spirit Awards. I'm like looking at my notes from the last time we talked about this, and I'm like, yeah, I got that right, got that right, got that right. And I do appreciate that Kate Blanchett like took the time to say like, "Where's Greta Gerwig?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yes, exactly," which is what we said too. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I know. This is
Overall,
so
not
easy.
much to say about that one. Everyone kind of ran away with the awards that we
I
expected them to
know.
Yeah.
get. Now let's move on to the Oscars. The Academy Awards were, I think, first of all, I want to ask, what did you guys think of the show? Ellen DeGeneres
Mhm.
hosting this year. I thought she did a great job.
I liked it. I've read a few reviews saying that they thought she was kind of boring, or even
Yeah.
that she was a little bit mean, which I thought was kind of interesting. And
To
uh,
Liza
yeah,
Minnelli.
and well, and like older actresses in general kind of got kind of a hard time that night. But like, I don't think she was overly mean. Like, some of the inappropriate jokes that like Seth MacFarlane, pulled off last year were way more like, oh gosh, no, he did not just say that. Um, so I thought it was enjoyable. Mostly, I was excited that they weren't chatting it up or doing musical numbers over and over again, and we got straight to the awards, which is really what I want to see, anyways. And um, yeah, so I didn't mind her. What do you guys think of her?
I think that what happened was after last year, which I thought, like now I guess the consensus that last year was kind of disastrous. Like they really didn't
Yeah,
like Seth
Yeah.
MacFarlane, that they really wanted to play it safe.
yeah,
So it in all honesty, I thought it was kind of boring.
yeah.
But as far as an award as the Oscars go, it really was. It didn't really, it wasn't a bad show. It just, wasn't an especially good one. But
Hmm.
which honestly, I find it interesting how like the Golden Globes. I feel like that's like a formula they perfected now, especially with like Tina and Amy as hosts. Whereas the Oscars, like they're constantly trying to tinker with it and try and find like a groove,
That's
that they can never really get
Totally,
it.
Yeah.
totally.
But yeah, no, I mean, I kind of thought the pizza stuff was like lame, time wasting.
I loved it,
I
man. I gotta say, I loved that shit.
and there was
I
just a
thought it
lot
was
of
so
it just felt
funny.
like they were just like killing time, and then
Yeah,
and the
I was laughing so hard. It was like the Family Guy thing where you're waiting for them to cut and he keeps going. I was laughing so hard because I was imagining the people in the booth like running the show just kind of having a headache,
yeah.
and
yeah.
how long she was going. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I just found this is the funniest thing in the world to me.
I know.
Of course, Marty Scorsese wanted that slice of pizza. He
Brad
needed
Pitt
that
was
slice of
Yeah.
pizza. Huh?
Brad Pitt was chowing down too on a slice.
I know.
And what was it? I like
Is
that she
it?
went to Harvey Weinstein for the tip, which
Yeah,
Oh,
I like.
did you see that she brought that pizza guy onto her show the next day and gave
I
him his
did.
tip? He got $1,000 tip.
Amazing.
That's pretty impressive. Way to go, that guy.
Well, okay, so let's get into the good stuff. The awards, the awards that we predicted in our last show. First, we'll start at the top with Best Picture, 12 Years a Slave. We were wrong. That's the one we got wrong.
I
You guys
know.
thought it was Gravity?
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought it would be, yeah, Coron and Best Picture for Gravity, and
It was. I had a feeling that
yeah,
would go much like the Globes, where like the Golden Globes. I don't know. I had a gut feeling about where I felt like they really did want to give it to Gravity, but I think that they just didn't want to face the shitstorm because they do already get ragged on a lot
Right.
for
mm,
being very very white male, I guess. But
right,
and I feel like and also the subject matter kind of demands it.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they really want to give to Gravity, considering won pretty much
yeah.
every other award, save for like the acting.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
yeah,
but you know what? When I saw Will Smith walk out there, I mean, I like something when I saw Will Smith walk out there. I just said, I was almost positive it was going to be Gravity until he walked out, and I thought,
Ah,
of course, it's just going to be this moment, you know,
that's
black actors.
awful. No.
I knew, you know what? Like, I don't care. Like
Uh,
No, yeah.
no,
and
in
it
all
happened.
honesty, I wouldn't put it past the Oscars to make that kind of decision. Like, I mean, Michelle Obama gave it to Argo, which is a very politically themed film that was like, "Yay, America!" So
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them at all. I mean,
And
Yeah.
it's not a terrible thing. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. 12 Years a Slave, incredible film, and Will Smith, you know, I like him as an actor. Uh, you know,
Mhm.
but I smelled something fishy going on there. But yeah. Anyways, moving down the line, best director Alfonso Cuarón. We predicted that, I think.
Yeah.
mhm.
Ananda, both of us,
Oh yeah.
all three of us,
I
maybe.
see his
Yeah.
name written down right on my computer screen. I
It's
totally
Right
predicted
interesting.
on your
that.
computer screen.
Yeah, I got my little note like that I used for my
Oh,
predictions last time.
that's adorable.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, no surprise there with Mr. Cuarón. I think you know. I think more than anything, I think Gravity just stuck out like a sore thumb this year. You know, it was just so different than every. Not it's not like this crazy experimental film or anything. Just in terms of the big budget, big
Hmm.
productions, it was there wasn't anything really going up against it in terms of that style of movie.
I think it's the
Yeah.
same as Life of Pi the year before. You know, that
Yeah.
was just
Yeah,
and I find it interesting that we have 2 years in a row now where there are splits between director and picture
Yeah.
because it's like you know they're not being connected anymore. I think that they're seeing that you know like it's an achievement. You know, visually it's a very unique film in that sense, and
right.
they're giving that out. So yeah, I don't have any issues with Alfonso Cuarón getting it. I mean, he
Yeah.
clearly directed the shit out of it, so.
Yeah. For like 4 years, he directed the shit out of it. Mm.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's kind
Uh,
of
uh, let's go to the actors. Best actor in a leading role. Matthew McConaughey, whatever, you know, yeah.
Mm.
Like,
I'm with you, Bernard. I think it should have went to Bruce Dern, but oh well.
is that what I said? I said it should. Is that
Yeah, you
what
said
I
it should. I mean, you
Yeah,
predicted everyone predicted Matthew McConaughey, but I think I personally
right.
like Bruce Dern's
yeah,
performance the most.
me too. Me too. I think Bruce Dern
Uh,
deserved it.
Yeah.
I think Matthew McConaughey had like the weirdest speech, though. I don't know that I was on board with his whole "I'm my own role model, but I'll never be my own role model." Ooh, mind blown. Like, I don't.
It sounds like the kind of monologue his character on True Detective would give if he converted to Christianity.
Right? Like, if you talk in circles enough, you'll get people so confused. They'll think you just said something so amazing. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, what was that? What was that?
Oh
I don't know.
man. So yeah, no, yeah, the funny guy, funny kind of peculiar guy, Matthew McConaughey, winning for best actor in a leading role. No surprise. Best actress in a leading role. Kate Blanchett. That was probably the biggest lock of all of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a lock
Yeah.
since like July. It was like done, and I thought she gave a great speech. I really liked that she said films like that films with a woman as a central character are not niche films. I like
Yeah.
that she gave a
Right.
little shout out to that.
And they
So
make money.
yes, they
Yeah.
make money.
Yeah, I know. I love that.
Yeah, no, she gave a great speech.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. And kind of as a little going off track a little bit, I was telling my wife as we were watching the Oscars, going back to Miss Ellen DeGeneres, that I thought it's just really cool that we have you know, a gay figure like her hosting an Oscars and no one talks about it.
Hmm.
I'm talking about it right now, so I'm like ruining it, but I think it was really great. You know, I mean, I love seeing people put in roles or positions that aren't tailored for, you know, either their minority or their sexual orientation, and no one really, because everyone fucking
Hmm.
loves Ellen, and I thought it was really nice. You know, it made me feel good.
Yeah. No, that's great.
But moving on, Mr. Jared Leto giving a really polished, great speech for winning his Oscar for Best Supporting Role.
Considering his Spirit Award speech was so like he was thinking like the most random things, and wasn't he calling Lupita his like future ex-wife and like all this randomness, and then he was so dapper and put together considering he's the first award of the evening too. Like on the spot like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah, what did you think of his speech, CJ?
All some of his mom was fine, but when I think he started talking about like the Ukraine and stuff, and I kind of tuned out.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I don't care what you think about that. No one cares.
Uh,
Like, just shut up. Go talk about your mom.
well, he
Yeah,
kept it very vague too, and was just kind of like, "You're in our thoughts." It's like,
I just heard people got upset because they felt like he was relating, his struggle or his, experience to people who actually, had struggles.
right, he
Right.
attained his dreams similarly to how people in Venezuela and the Ukraine are now currently attaining their dreams.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
No.
Oh man, yeah, a little embarrassing when you look at it that way, definitely. Best actress in a supporting role, I was just balling for this one. Lupita Nyong'o, that was such a tearjerker for me. I don't know about you
Oh
guys,
yeah.
but it was great to see. She's so cute. She's the cutest
She's
thing on earth.
gorgeous. Oh
Yeah.
man.
She had a great speech, and I'm glad. You know what? Even though it wasn't, I disagree with the consensus that say like she was so like deserving and stuff. I still was rooting for her to win by it, as opposed to like it was between her and Jennifer Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
I was rooting for her to get it over Jennifer Lawrence because, but yeah, no, I was glad, and she did give a really good speech, and she looked like she basically wore the same dress as Cinderella from the Disney movies.
Yeah.
Think about
Aw.
it.
Oh, and then they played Pure Imagination after as she was walking
Yeah.
off. It was just so sweet. And speaking of walking off or calling people off, no one got played out that night
That was one of my favorite
orchestra.
things about the broadcast, that they didn't do that. Like last year, remember, it pissed me off so much that they just played the Jaws music as like a funny
Yeah.
thing. But it's
Oh,
like, but then remember, like someone came up and was talking about like one of his dying relatives, and the Jaws music
Right.
is playing, and it's like, oh, you didn't think that maybe someone would be sincere in their acceptance speech, and that would
Right.
look horrible. So I was glad that they just didn't play anybody off this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about the in memoriam section, which was probably the most devastating one I've seen in years.
Seriously.
The amount of, always the in memoriam section of the Oscars is full of talented, important figures in the film industry, but this year a lot of those names really hit home. I couldn't believe how many people we lost, how many great artists we lost this past year. What did you guys think about that?
Yeah. I think as we get older, we're always going to recognize more names. So I'm aware of that, but I'm just getting more old and I know more people who have died. Not personally, but but yeah, I know this year was like there was a couple too that like enough time had passed that I had forgotten momentarily that they passed, and I was like, oh, that's right. Oh my gosh, so and so also, and I was just like sad about it. That was a rough one.
I mean, you could start anywhere. I mean, gosh, Roger Ebert.
Yeah, right.
Roger Ebert, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Harold Ramis. Like, even the smaller ones that more people aren't familiar with, like Les Blanc is one of the most creative documentarians there ever was. Love his work.
Karen Black.
No.
Karen Black.
Shirley Temple.
Shirley fucking Temple. Like,
I know, right?
Jesus.
It was like, I thought the devastating part was when Bette Midler came out afterward and sang.
That was definitely devastating.
Yes. Yeah, no, I didn't have the mute button on me, so, but oh well. I mean,
I think I just like burst out laughing. Like, no, they are not doing this. There's no way this is truly happening.
And I thought it was funny that I was actually really happy that they put Roger Ebert in, and but they it was like I'm like, because they just said film critic under his name. I was like, they should have put in like writer of that Russ Meyer movie he did.
Right.
Heard about screenplay. Or what was it, Valley of the Dolls or whatever?
In the Valley of the Dolls.
In the Valley of the Dolls, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, lots of.
Sorry. Well, I was remembering there's a little bit of controversy over them like sticking Sarah Jones in at the end, like as a like go to our website to see more about Sarah Jones. I thought it was nice considering how that like just happened that they even included it, but other people were disappointed that she didn't get her own spot in there.
It's basically, I get it, but I mean, it's a tragic circumstance, but I mean, you're going from a position where I don't know. I feel like it doesn't really match what the Oscars usually does. Like
Yeah,
I feel bad saying this because it's like she died like it's a really horrible tragic situation. But I
totally.
understand I not that I'm agreeing with, but I understand why they wouldn't include her. Why, but at least they gave something. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking back to the whole montage now. Like yeah, Peter O'Toole was like
Yeah.
what,
Jesus, yeah, Peter
yeah,
O'Toole.
yeah.
Right?
And I mean, people were complaining that Alain Resnais was not on it, and it's like he died
Hmm.
that day. Like
Right, right,
they're
right.
not miracle workers.
Seriously. Take some time to get these things done.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Mr. Paul Walker as well.
I
Yeah.
know.
I mean,
That was one that I had like
sad about.
momentarily forgotten, and that was just last fall, and I was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh. Oh.
I don't know if that says a lot about his career if you forgot already.
I know. Well, it's because he's so young. I mean,
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
like
it's a
40.
shock. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more just you don't really think. Yeah, it's because of the youth. You don't really think that he's gone now,
Right.
and then you see and you go, oh shit, like especially because he has movies coming out still.
yeah,
I know. Yeah,
that's weird.
really,
Yeah.
really heartbreaking. This in memoriam section this year. But that's life. But now we're going to move on to something that's very relevant to our site, way2indie.com, is the independent film industry
Hmm.
eating itself up. Are we too inundated with independent films, tiny independent films? The studios are just kind of eating up like candy. Maybe I'll let you take this intro away, CJ, since you kind of brought this up to us.
Okay. Yeah. So this started brewing in January when Sundance was occurring because in the New York Times, Manohla Dargis, I hope I got her name right.
Oh, yeah.
She did an article basically saying that there are just too many movies being released now. She was mainly complaining because in the New York Times, a rule is they have to review every film being released. And there are a lot of times where people are just either feeling a contractual obligation that the movie has to be in theaters before going on like VOD or whatever. So they reviewed like 900 films in 2013, which is a
Right.
much higher number than the year before and the year before and so on. And yeah, she was basically her general argument was saying that she wanted curation over consumption. So people essentially
Quality over
choosing stuff.
quantity.
Yeah, exactly. And then recently, a few weeks ago, Salon did an article by Beanie Barnes. I don't know who Beanie Barnes is exactly,
I don't either.
but they had a more practical approach to the similar argument where they said that it's getting to a point now where they called it's turning into like Walmart. You're producing cheap, lesser quality goods for the sake of competition, for the sake of perpetuating these film labs, film fests, and all that are set up to embrace content and put people out there. So yeah, so basically, I figured it's a good topic, and it's I thought this was going to be inevitable once the digital revolution, so to speak, started to happen. That it's going to be much more accessible, much more financially feasible to make independent films. So yeah, I'll take one of you guys if you want to chime in and give your thoughts on the articles and how you feel about indie filmmaking today.
Well, I think there's a distinction to be made between there are too many indie movies being made and too many indie movies being released, right? The studios are kind of perpetuating this problem a little bit. I do think it's a problem. And I think in Manola's article, she was talking about how the studios just go into Sundance and lap up as many independent films as they can, hoping that one of them hits. So they're
Right.
throwing this money at these films, hoping that one of them is going to make their money back. But it's kind of making it so that a lot of not so great films get put out there, films that perhaps aren't as deserving of that studio money as other ones, and that these studios should take more care in carefully choosing these films and making sure people see them, as opposed to just like spraying out this, this huge number of tiny films, hoping that one of them lands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the example she gave, I think, was Computer Chess, because that was a movie
Yeah.
that You know, a lot of critics liked it and all that, but she said that on the week of its release, something like 20 other films are being released in the same weekend. And you know, so obviously, and she said, you know, the only two of those releases were major studio films, and naturally, you know, they dominate the box office. Whereas, you know, like a movie like Computer Chess it gets more of a niche exposure. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say that, you know, obviously more indie films are being made. Like, you know, in order to have more indie films being released, you have to have more indie films being made. And I do agree with you that the studios are being very happy, especially now smaller labels, because VOD is turning into a bit of a profitable market.
Right.
Um, and I guess what it appears to be is, like she said, that there are cases where, you know, like they might have a contractual deal where it says the film has to be released in theaters before it goes on VOD, and then, you know, you get like a week, 2 weeks in theaters, and then it just goes on to VOD and gets stuck there forever with the bajillion other titles. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I personally think I agree with the point that there's too many indie films being made, but it's also weird to say that, you know, you want curation over consumption, or you want, like, because then it's like, you know, you're leaving it to certain people, and, you know, those people might miss things. There are examples already. I mean, a good example is Alex Ross Perry. He made The Color Wheel, which is a film I adore. I love that movie, and Sundance passed on it. She even brings up that in the 70s, John Cassavetes, Woman Under the Influence, was originally rejected by the New York Film Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, and he had to release it himself. He had to fund his own money to release it. So, you know, there are always going to be films being passed over. And if you lean too heavily on curation, then you're going to maybe have films slip through the cracks. But then with consumption, I mean, then it's like you know, there's so many that films are just going to be ignored. So it's a weird balance that has to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ananda, let me ask you this. Do you think that we've reached a point? There are obviously a lot more movies coming out nowadays in theaters, independent movies, which initially you'd think that'd be a good thing. It's kind of up in the air whether or not that's a good thing for the industry. I mean, that's the thing we have to think about, is these are expensive things to make it generally. You know, like they're not easy productions. You ask, you know, any filmmaker. But do you think we've reached a point where it's too saturated, where the quality of the films has gone down because of the sheer quantity of them?
Yes. I think absolutely. I think that's the point. I think that why these, you know, like this critic from the New York Times comes out to talk about this, is she's complaining that now it's up to critics they have to review these horrible films and are having to sift through so much crap now so that people can see if they want to watch it or not. And I like that they brought up like the whole thing about supply and demand. There isn't demand. Like there's no one's asking for more indie films and saying, "Oh my goodness, I just wish there were more out there to sift through." Like, no, it's like going on Netflix on a Friday night with no idea what you want to watch. You're screwed, right? You're going to spend an hour like just sitting there browsing. And I mean, it's like that at the theaters now. Like you have to, I mean, it makes the role of the critic almost more crucial right now, because you almost have to sort of read ahead of time to know if anything's worth seeing, but it's harder to cover all those, and is it worth it if it's only going to be out for a week or two anyways? And yeah, there's so much more bad films getting out there. I don't mind lots of films being made. I think it's the soul of indie filmmaking is that you can pick up your iPhone and you can go out and you might make something kind of awesome. That's great, and you can put it on YouTube and maybe enough people will watch it that you could get into a festival and maybe someone's going to see it there and want to buy it. Like, that's fine, but that's why she's saying, like, it's up to the studios to be the ones to say, like, no, you can't just buy everything. Like,
right.
You're the ones who are supposed to say, I see what you're trying to do and you're not there yet. And that's the whole thing about these like indie filmmakers that have come out that are now really huge filmmakers and are doing great, is that they were rejected. That was necessary for their artistic process. For them to become the great director they are now, they needed that like shutdown. So, you know, the studios are failing them in that sense. Like, it's just.
Do you think this is perhaps a marketing issue? Do you think studios perhaps aren't spending enough energy championing the films that they think are the best in their library?
No, I mean, how do you champion like 50 films that are coming out the same weekend?
No, I
Like,
mean like for example, like if they instead of purchasing a bunch of films and just kind of spreading them out and not really just kind of giving them each standard marketing, maybe picking up three and then marketing the shit out of those three because you really love them.
yeah, I mean, that's hopefully what they would be doing is
Yeah, I think that'd be a
uh,
better way to go.
there's an indie film community now. I mean, we're part of it, obviously, and we try to pay attention, and it's making it harder for us to know what's good out there if everything's getting out. So, um, yeah, I think that's ideally exactly what would happen is they'd choose three instead of 50, and
Yeah.
they'd show them to us like in the right way. They would like take the time to make sure they were polished and ready to go, and that they got the attention they deserve before they came out. And yeah,
But I mean, I think between the two articles, like I like Manol Dargis's argument, but I do feel it comes from a bit of a whiny perspective of like, oh, I don't want to watch all these crappy movies, and I mean, I don't blame her. And there, actually, some people, New York critics from other publications, point out that a major difference between the New York Times and other publications is they include every film released in New York City.
Right.
And there are some theaters that are just dedicated to people coming in like, hey, I have some random ass movie I want to just put in theaters in New York City because they know it'll get covered in the Times. So they just, and this is, I forget the name of the theater, but, and New York Times reviews all of those. And they say that, that might be why they might be feeling fatigued because they have to cover these films. But anyways, I like Beanie Barnes' article a lot because there were more, it is practical, it's more about the behind the scenes, it's more definitely
more pragmatic.
More pragmatic, and it has more facts, facts and figures behind. Like, I mean, I think Barnes said there are 1,500 films got released last year theatrically, but on average, people go to the movies 6 times a year, and less than 100 overall. They see less than 100 films overall, period, in a year. Mm-hmm. So, and as he says, the issue isn't less films; it's there aren't enough eyeballs to watch the films.
The demand, right?
Yeah, the demand isn't there, and but like I forgot to mention this before, but there's one indie filmmaker. His name's Kentucker Audley. He's an actor, director, filmmaker. He actually runs a company called No Budge Productions, which they actually will take indie films and put them up for free online, and then have like discussions about it and stuff. He made a petition in response to these articles that basically said any indie filmmakers who want to give up indie filmmaking, like, sign this petition. We're going to give up our dreams so we can, see the real filmmakers that are going to come out. Like, and it's an interesting response because it is essentially telling people, like, when people make independent films, they're making it for their own personal reasons. It's something that speaks to them. They want to have their vision or whatever, and you're essentially saying, like, well, don't do that, and then hopefully the good stuff's just going to come out. But there's no barometer on how you're going to find that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think anyone should stop making movies. Like, go for it. It's totally on you.
Right.
It's all about the audience, and I think you're right. Beanie Barnes, is that her name?
Her or him, I don't even know.
Her or him, whoever. I think that they had more of a perspective. Actually, I felt like they were more looking out for the audience, and like, which I appreciate because before I'm a film critic, I'm a film watcher, and the audience isn't asking for it. Like, they don't want more. They're not going. They're not going to take the time to do it. So people can make films, but it's the studios who are trying to release these films, and the only reason to release a film is to get it watched, to make money off of it, and that's not happening. Like, I think they straight up said, like, they're not actually making money off of this at all. So,
and that's the big problem, right? The industry isn't sustainable as it is right now. People aren't making money.
Mm-hmm.
Films are getting released. People aren't getting paid.
And who's suffering is like the crew members of these film shoots, like, that are, they're just holding out that they're going to get some kind of cut later, but like, that is so not promised, and they're making, peanuts while they're doing it. So.
And VOD doesn't make much. They point out that films maybe make like 25, 30,000 VOD. But then again, I mean, I feel like depending on some of the films, that's probably more than they would have got in theaters. But
That's true. That's true.
yeah, like, but I mean, I like Manal Dargis' argument where she is essentially saying that the studios should be more picky with the films they buy, because if distribution is not there, then it will, make producers maybe think, maybe let's not, it'll make them more selective in what they want to throw their money at, because then, they need something that they know is going to get, picked up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that it's just a tough balance, because because it is indie filmmaking, and you are essentially telling filmmakers, like, that thing you have a vision of, your dream and stuff, like, you shouldn't. It's kind of saying, don't make it, but if it's really good, make it. But
Yeah.
if it's not, then don't waste your time. It's a bit hard to really get a sense of what's going to be good or bad in terms of producing. But I guess it is up to the producers, distributors, all the people in the industry to figure that out.
Yeah. And, this kind of supports this personal philosophy I have, which a lot of time, because there's so much stuff out there, like to stream or, see in the theater, like people ask me, like, oh, you're going to go see such and such film. And I'll be like, no, that got a horrible review. I'm not going to see it. And I really do rely now more than I ever have on word of mouth, like other people saying, like, yes, I thought that was good. It's totally worth seeing. It's worth putting your money in. It's worth them seeing that you streamed it, all of that. And I really get annoyed with people who are like, it's streaming, who cares? I'm just going to watch it, I'll put it on. And it's like, you're encouraging this. You're encouraging watching crap movies for the sake of watching crap movies. Like, don't watch it. If you think it's going to be bad, you heard it was bad, it's probably bad, everybody in it is bad in other movies, then don't watch it. Like, don't get, like, more hits on it so that they see, like, oh, this one's doing well, like, let's try for another one. Like, stop it, people. Like, and
what do you
there's,
think about
because
that?
there's so many movies in this world and we do not have enough time to watch them all, I really try to be selective about what I watch. I don't want to watch every dang thing. It's not worth my time. Time is money.
Time is money. Well, what do you think about that, CJ? I'm interested what you think about not kind of avoiding films that the consensus amongst either critics or the public has been that it's not good. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, for me personally, like, over the years, I've noticed that I've carved out more of a niche for myself, where, I'm going to certain opinions, I'm going to certain publications, websites,
Like
what have
critics you trust.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm trying to see, I'm getting a barometer of that, or I'm looking at film festivals and what's getting buzzes or prizes there,
Yeah.
more so than just, like, and funnily enough, I actually went to the movies yesterday, or the other day actually, with a friend who took me. I didn't choose, but it was free to nonstop. Liam Neeson on the plane.
Hey.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad at all, but I mean, like, I'm sitting there and I just kind of, it is like I'm just sitting there and I'm kind of just like, I'm not invested. I'm just watching the thing unfold before me, and I'm just kind of like, okay, oh, this is happening, and I know people who do that. They just put on movies for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, not to be confused with, like, sometimes you want something brainless because that's the, like, mood you're in or whatever. Yeah. There's something to be said for, movies fitting every kind of situation. But, like, I don't know, if you really want an engaging film and like, the movie you're about to turn on or go to is, like, you're going to hate it, like, why do that to yourself?
I think the issues with people being passive viewers and putting this stuff on, but the issue is also that there aren't enough viewers, period, to watch these films, right?
Yeah.
So how much of an impact is it really going to make in terms of perpetuating this cycle of indie films being constantly made?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say personally, for my kind of my film taste, I love watching films. I love watching lots of films and kind of expanding my vocabulary, as it were, since I have to write about them all the time. But I find that, and I think I forget who said it. It might have been Tarantino or someone like that said that sometimes they enjoy watching great scenes in bad movies more than they enjoy watching great movies, because like Touch of Evil, like how it's not that great of a movie, but the beginning section is just incredible, right? Like overall, it's not so great, but that it makes it worthwhile that there's something good in there. I do, yeah. Of course, I hope every movie I watch is going to be great. I aim to, yeah. I love what I want every movie I see to be really good. But when movies are bad, sometimes I watch a movie and it's not so good. I can still take something of value, even though I didn't particularly enjoy a movie. I actually like that a lot. I like that a lot, kind of expanding my viewpoint on cinema through even terrible movies, like The Room.
I I feel like oh, I just had this, but I think I lost it. I feel like even though Manolo always complains about watching a lot of crap movies, I do feel like with this influx of films, a lot of movies are getting a pass that I
Mm.
don't think should. I think there are a lot of films I watch that have some critical backing behind that, they do essentially are supportive.
Mm.
But when I watch them, they're not really that good. They're fine, but I don't think that they were really deserving of a high recommendation. Now, maybe it is because the market's so oversaturated with bad stuff that when something is somewhat decent comes along, that they go, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
It's like getting water when you're in the desert. But I don't know. I've noticed that lately, and um, I'm trying to think of like examples. Like I actually this film that I just reviewed. It's going to come up on the site in next week, I think, called In Fear, which is a horror film that it had decent reviews on Sundance. I think it has somewhere in like the 60s in Metacritic. I think well, I'll spoil it, but I probably give it like a 6, maybe 5.9. Like it's fine, but but I noticed that people were giving it really high grades, and I'm like, it's not. It has good things, but I don't think it's deserving of some of the praise it's getting thrown on it. I don't know. Do any of you guys feel that way, where you think that this influx of films is kind of giving other movies that maybe are not exactly the best are getting a much higher or inflated um, viewpoint or critical consensus?
Yeah, I do think that's true, and I think it's hard because it is hard when you're so inundated with kind of lower quality films, and then you stumble upon something that's a lot better than those terrible films, but doesn't even come close to approaching, the greatest films we've ever seen. Yeah, it's easy to talk about those films as being the best because they might be the best at the time, but maybe the time isn't so great. Maybe there just isn't anything better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
there's
do think people inflate their critique of certain films. I'm guilty as charged. There's some films where I see it. So sometimes after I review films the day after I watch them, and yeah, definitely like Blue Jasmine. I think I don't completely agree with my initial review. I think that movie fell in my estimation a lot after I sat with it. I think I
Hmm.
just got overly excited. But it's
Yeah.
hard to avoid that sometimes.
it's happened. Sometimes I have to find a distinction. Like a good example recently was Her. When I watched, I've seen Her 3 times, and after 3 times, I'm like, I don't need to see Her anymore. It's a good film, but it
Right.
does it kind of it's a good film. I'm not saying it's a bad film, but just kind of um, where Gravity is a good example where it did drop considerably after. I did see that one 3 times as well,
Right.
and every time I
Yeah.
watch it, like I'm like maybe, and then it just never worked.
I
But
think
still,
I think what I mean too when I was saying that like I'll avoid films is like the ones I actually tend to avoid are the ones that got meh, like
yeah.
this is okay. And
Indifferent. Yeah.
yeah, like I actually kind of like it when someone's like I love this movie and then the next guy is like I hated that movie because that makes me think this is a divisive movie. This could be
Yes.
interesting. And then I like seeing movies like that.
Mhm.
Or even if they say, oh my gosh, I hated it, that almost piques my interest a little because it's like you had such a strong reaction. What was it about it? Which is why I wanted to see The Room. Like everyone's like, that's such a
Yeah.
horrible movie. It's like it's got it, and it really truly is so bad. It's kind of good. Not like good filmmaking, just good as in like
It's a masterpiece.
you laugh a
Mhm.
lot.
It's a
Yeah.
masterpiece. Yeah.
So like don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that like I'm avoiding watching these awful movies. Like I'm trying to avoid watching the meh movies, the
Yeah.
ones that like just aren't anything. And that's what there's too many of, I think, is these just like, it was okay, it was not great, it wasn't awful, but
And we're kind of in a strange position because we're critics, right? Like we're kind of dictating that opinion, whether it gets out there that a movie's meh or good or bad, right? We're part of that conversation. So it's hard. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I watch so many movies. Like I review so many movies that I have to watch, and I think there was a stretch of like 3 months from like November to January where like all the films I reviewed were like around 6. I gave like in a row, you know, like it was just getting to the point where it was painful because it wasn't. I couldn't even just destroy these movies. They were just, you know, like competent movies. Didn't really say anything.
I absolutely agree with you guys. Where I actually will. I think sometimes I will trash a movie more if I do feel indifferent about it. Because I'm like, you know what, you should make me feel something, and I don't like. It's not that the movie. It's not like I'm angry at the movie for being bad. I'm angry at the movie for not making me feel a single thing. That drives up a wall more.
It's about, if that movie has big ambition, then that's it.
If there's something there that I go, oh, that's interesting, or that's a different idea or something, then I go, okay, you know, there's something that's interesting here that at least gives us some redeemable quality. I usually point to an example of Clint Eastwood's movie from years ago, Invictus. And I remember I was infuriated watching it because it was so bland. And I remember I was just mad at how bland it was. It wasn't like the movie was bad, it's like fine, but it just was so like just like going like this straight. And it drove me up a wall. I'm like, do something. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm just watching your shit happen. I'm just, you know. So I actually get more upset with movies like that. I'm like you, Ananda, where if a film has very divisive reactions, I'm like, okay, something's in there. You know, I may come away hating it, but, you know, something's happening. I'm trying to think of more examples, but yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Your assessment, but in different. I lost my words. I lost English.
Yeah, Dustin and I talk about this all the time because I mean I read, now that I'm copy editing everything. I read pretty much like all the reviews that go up, and I can always tell when the reviewer was kind of like, it's okay, because those are the hardest reviews to write. Is when you just can't feel anything about it, and you're just like, I don't even know what to say. It was just blah, and that doesn't make for a good review, obviously. So. Those are the ones I usually have to like read over a few times because, like, all right, we're not really getting it across here. There's nothing to say when you don't feel anything at all.
When I reviewed the Grand Budapest Hotel, which just went up earlier this week, that was a film where, I mean, it was a good film. I mean, I liked it, but it was a case where everyone else was over the moon about it. I didn't see a single negative or critical thing about it watching. I came out of it, I was just like, you know, this is a good film, but it's not blowing me away. It's not, you know, something I find truly great. It's a very enjoyable film. It's entertaining. And in my review, I was kind of like, you know, I can see things happening in this movie that are interesting, but, you know, they're not necessarily working for me, or they're not working like gangbusters. There's things in it that I really like, but up to a point, you know. And a lot of that review for me was just kind of like, you know, figuring that out, you know, trying to get that out.
So guys, let's get back to the beginning, where this discussion all started. I want to ask both of you: do you think that there's chance that, obviously the structure of the independent film industry right now is not sustainable. It's not healthy. It's not you know, there's something has to change. What do you think that change is, and do you think that it's going to happen in the near future?
They better change if they expect to make money off of this in the future. It's not going to work the way it is right now, and like I don't know what it's going to take for them to see it. I mean, we can write all these articles and we can have these discussions, but I think the only thing that Hollywood notices is when their bank accounts start depleting. So I think that's going to happen, and then they're going to be like, whoa, got to strategize. And you know what I bet they'll do is actually they'll probably freak out a little and like rein it back like majorly, and all of a sudden like they're not going to buy anything for a little bit, which is fine because they just need to like, it always has to like, there's always those like highs and lows before things even out. But right now it's like we're just inundated and it's too much and it's obviously not working and it's definitely not making them money. So they're going to notice soon enough.
I think it is hard because you are essentially, we are in it's a transitionary period, I think, because we are, like VOD started in what, 2006? Right. Steven Soderbergh was the first person to really do that with Bubble.
Yeah.
That was I think,
one
of the first movies.
Bubble. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so it's still new. I think VOD is now just the new straight to video. It's just slightly classier because now you have specialty labels coming out like Magnet or Magnolia or IFC or what have you. But in terms of change, I think that there is going to have to be a pickiness. There's going to have to be more selective quality, more selective choices from studios and labels, distribution companies, producers, but not to a point where I think it should stifle people creating if they want to create. But I think what's just going to happen is things are going to sort itself out eventually. There's going to be a lot of bloodbaths. Companies are going to lose money because they're going to be buying up films, putting on VOD, not making enough money. Everything's going to go to shit for them. I expect that companies are going to shut down because they just can't sustain their business, and then that's going to help kind of make more slim pickings. I sound like such a free market person right now. I hate it. I'm like, it'll sort itself out. But
well, what I think, what this reminds me of is, I think something similar happened to the music industry years back with MySpace. So what happened was, before we had all these great bands and everything, this great music everywhere, and then MySpace came out, and indie bands, independent music artists, had this new platform to kind of just make music. It's like they were, actually releasing their music, sometimes making money off of it. So it's like anybody could be a rock star, and it created this huge bubble of MySpace artists that burst because there was so many low quality, so much low quality music out there. And people kind of forgot that you have to make a good record, right? Like, you have to make, the music has to be good. You can't just have a great, everyone has great ideas, but this is a craft. There's skill involved. You have to kind of hone your skills before you get to that next level. And I think the same thing's going on here with VOD, and where, it's like anybody can be an independent filmmaker, anybody can make movies, and the people who are really masterful filmmakers are now playing in the same arena as people who are just kind of playing around with this indie filmmaking thing. And I think the bubble will burst eventually, and like you said, the studios' wallets will go empty, and that something's going to have to change. But I think we're in a very similar situation as we were with MySpace back then.
Maybe like MySpace, Justin Timberlake will swoop in and buy up the independent film industry.
Oh, I wonder how much money he lost on that.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
he'll be fine, but
he's fine. All right, so I think, do you guys have any last words about this topic? Obviously, this is really relevant, and we could talk about this for a while, but
I just hope we don't turn into a crowdfunding industry. That's getting crowdsourcing. That gets a
we
little.
didn't even start talking about that. That's
right.
Yeah.
Sorry, can of worms. But anyways,
yeah.
I just remembered that.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's I don't know. I think that's gonna be a whole other bubble. So.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, yeah. Let's not get into that because Jesus.
Right.
My advice on my last words. My advice is just pay attention to the film fests, the major film fests at least. Look at Sundance. Even though Toronto has a shit ton of films, look at Toronto. South by Southwest, which is coming up this week, which Dustin's going to. Cannes, Berlin. I shouldn't name too many festivals, then it's too much. But pay attention to the festivals, see what's going on in that area if you want to look for really interesting or challenging films. And that's what I do. And then check maybe publications and stuff. See like you said, not to check out
RateTooIndie.com perhaps.
Yeah.
Yes,
read the reviews.
Well, if you're watching, I assume. But no, it's like what Ananda said. Keep your ears to the ground and just see, you can't. It's hard to really travel through the stuff yourself. So I think that people, if they want to find out, definitely rely on festivals, critics, etc., etc.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for our discussion today. Everybody, all you watchers out there. um, yeah,
Hi,
go to
Mom.
way2indie.com. What?
I said, hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Yeah. Hey, Ma. Go to way2indie.com to read more of our work. Where can we find you guys on social media, Ananda and CJ?
Ananda Writes at Ananda Writes.
At Ananda Writes. And at, what is yours, CJ?
At Ubudes,
What was that again?
Ubudes, OOOBOODESS.
It's so good. And I'm at BJ Boo on Twitter as well. And thank you guys, whoever's out there, for tuning in. This has been the second Way Too Indie Hangout, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for listening.
Woohoo.